Let's get it. Shake it like understand who I is. Not that many gon' do it like this. Bob your head, we can hear my shit, but I'm on my shit. I ain't has no chill, I'm who I are.
Hey everyone, it's Sean from TDG. I'm back with that dating story that I promised you after we hit 1,000 subscribers. So I think we're currently sitting at about 1,400 subscribers. That number should be going up. So I'll be showing you guys that dating story in a little bit. Also with the dating story, I put on a little video of when I was in Japan. I was just walking up a temple. So I'll put on a visual for you because this was just an audio clip that came from King's channel when he first started his channel. So we didn't have any video for it. So if you guys are watching, enjoy the little video I put together for you guys. But once again, thanks to everybody. Like, comment, and subscribe. And we're going to have more content like this coming to you guys in the future. Definitely let us know if you like this by dropping a comment down in the comment box, whatever you call that thing. Make sure you subscribe. And we've got a goal of hitting 5,000 subscribers by August. My birthday's in August, so let's make sure we hit that. And I think that's pretty much all I have for you guys. So make sure if you like this video, if you like my crazy dating story, you let us know in the comments. If you have any crazy dating stories of your own, let me know in the comments or hit me up. I like to have you guys on the show so we can, share our own crazy dating stories. But this one's kind of a doozy. So I hope you guys enjoy. Oh, and one more thing, guys. If you guys want to hear the whole story, the whole recording, because there is more to it, I'm going to link it in the description box to King's channel where you can get the whole dating story, because this is about half. Actually, you're getting the whole story, but there was an interview section beforehand. So if you're curious about that, go ahead and check out the whole story on King's channel. It's called Today in My Life, or it's the actual King Smith. But whatever it is, I'm going to link it down in the description box below. So check it out, all right? Show King and his channel a bit of love, too. So before I do is in any way furthered, we're going to jump into it. Isn't that what they say 4 times showing? So yeah, I guess I can tell you that one story I told you, because that's the only thing that comes to mind right now as far as a crazy Tinder story. Okay, I probably have to go through my Tinder matches to kick off my mind, like, oh yeah, that one, yeah, okay, she was crazy, or this and that happened. Got you. But okay, so I met this one girl. She moved here from Virginia. And when I met her on Tinder, she was ready to meet that day. Ooh, okay, yeah. Okay. Which I was like, okay, this is cool. This usually doesn't happen because usually girls want to talk for a little bit. They want to get to know you, and I get that. You want to make sure you're not an axe murderer, and that's important. So I was like, well, I can't meet right now. I'm actually studying, so let me finish my study and I'll come meet you. She's like, okay, cool. I just got done with yoga. I'm going to be down here at this restaurant. You can meet me here. So I'm like, cool. So I get finished studying, I shower, and I get to the restaurant, and I'm texting her. And I'm like, hey, where you at? She's like, I'm in the back. I'm looking around, but since I'm a black guy, I don't want to be, looking around this restaurant, because you know how it is being a black person. You kind of feel like you're always suspicious. Oh, yeah. So I don't see her. So I'm like, I'm just going to go to the bar. And I'll tell her to come to the bar, and if she's not here, then I can get a drink and just be out. Okay. So I'm like, all right, I'm at the bar. Just come find me, because I can't find you. So she shows up, and she's exactly the person in the picture. I'm like, thank you, Jesus. Bingo, bango, baby. Exactly, because she was beautiful. And so we start talking, and she's telling me she's a smart person, she's a smart girl, and she likes to read and do all these kind of things, and yada yada. And as we're talking, her speech starts to slur a little bit. And like I said, I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm a very smart person. I'm very perceptive. But when it comes to the opposite sex and hopefulness, you add that into the mix, you start ignoring, the obvious signs, so the obvious red flags. So that's what I did. Okay. And throughout this whole story, I ignored a lot of red flags. So I don't want to hear from nobody either. So anyways, so she starts slurring her words. I'm like, maybe this is a side effect of being really smart, that I don't know about. Maybe she's some sort of savant. And when she starts slurring after a while, she starts to develop that little white stuff in the corner of your mouth. And I was like, that's odd too. Not very attractive, but kind of odd. But, okay. But I was like, you know what? It's first time meeting her. I'll let it slide. No problem. No problem, huh? Yeah. So we're talking, we have a good time through the slurring, and it starts to hit me. I'm like, this isn't normal. This isn't smarts coming through right here. This is someone who's drunk.
And she came there by herself?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she was drunk. And so I'm like, I need to get this chick out of here. Not for any nefarious reason, just because I was feeling a little uncomfortable, and I just felt like maybe some fresh air would help her, because it was a fall day. It was a nice fall day out. So I'm like, let's go for a walk. And we didn't get very far as walking, because she was kind of stumbling, and I had to kind of steady her. So we decided to sit on a park bench, and I started asking a couple of questions. I could see she's starting to nod off. And I was like, uh-oh. It's closing time in her head, So I said, hey, let me just take you home. So she's like, okay. So I walk her back to my car, because she didn't drive either, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I asked her what's her address, and she gives me her address. She tells me she's living with her dad right now. I'm like, okay. Soon I put the address into the GPS. I mean, as soon as I put the start button, and it's like, turn right on Laura Street, she was already out in my front seat.
Gone.
Out cold.
Huh.
Yeah. And I was like, are you kidding me? I got to do this already? So anyways, she didn't live too far, and I get to her house, and I'm like, this is going to be awkward, So I go and I knock on the door, and her father comes to the door. Now, I never met this man before in my life, because I just met her. And he's like, yes, can I help you? And I'm like, hi, sir. I didn't even know his name either. I have your daughter in my car. She is passed out. What would you like me to do? So it was weird, because he didn't have a reaction that I thought he'd have.
Yeah.
There wasn't much concern. It was more like, it's another Tuesday, that kind of thing. I was like, that's weird that you don't really care too much.
So, glutton for punishment. You perceive this, but yet there's more.
Right. I'm still putting the puzzle together.
All right.
And just for everyone who's listening, this is a 3-part story. And this is part 1 right now. Every part ends back. No, sorry. Well, we'll get to that anyways. But anyway,
okay.
So he's like, I have a bad back. Do you mind carrying her inside? I'm like, okay, sure, no problem. So I carry her inside. He's like, just put her right there on that couch. And I put her down. And I think he says thank you. And I'm like, sure, no problem. And I just awkwardly shuffle out the front door and into my car. We didn't say any more words, because I didn't know what to say to him. I guess he didn't know what to say to me. And I thought that'd be that.
You just UPS his daughter home, and he had nothing else really extra to say.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was date 1 with her, part 1 of 3. So the next time, I think it was the next day maybe, or maybe a few days later, she messaged me. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry about that. She has some sort of excuse of why it happened, and I don't remember what it was, but she was like, can we try again, whatever. I was like, all right, cool, no problem. How about after I get off work, we'll go see a movie? And she's like, yeah, let's do that. And this is when Pacific Rim, the second one, was coming out. I wanted to go see that. And so I get off work, and she's like, hey, I'm downtown at this restaurant. You can meet me here. And I'm like, okay.
Another restaurant.
Another flag popping up,
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, all right, meet you at the restaurant. So I get there, and she's kind of ready to finish her food, and she's kind of sitting there, and it feels awkward again, because something just feels off. And she was definitely drunk again. And so I'm like, well, let's just get out of here. And I was hoping she wasn't too drunk. I wanted to go see the movie, but once again, she was drunk again.
Uh-huh.
So I ended up paying for her meal and her whole bottle of wine that she got, which I don't know when or how she crushed a whole bottle of wine by herself, because she's a little girl, a little petite, tiny girl, but I guess they have bottomless pits. So
give a height, weight for the visuals, for us guys that are visuals.
I would say she was no taller than like 5'4",
okay,
maybe 5'5", and at her heaviest, maybe 120, maybe.
Okay,
yeah, okay. But probably lighter than that.
Got you.
Yeah, so like I said, she was petite, but she could apparently put the booze away. So I paid for the bill, and then as we're leaving, I see this piece of paper on the ground.
Okay.
it was the bill they already brought to her, but she had like thrown it on the ground. But whatever. So I escort her out this store, out of the front, and there's 2 doors there. One of them doesn't open, and downtown it's a bunch of old buildings, so these aren't regular sized doors. These are smaller doors. So I couldn't get both of us out of the door at the same time. It's like you watch those movies and they get stuck in the door and like, oh God. You know? That's basically what it was. I'm like, all right, you go first. Or I think I went first. I made sure she didn't, face plant. So as we're walking back to my car, I parked in the parking garage. We're like 2 blocks away from my car. And this 2 blocks, normal walking speed, will take you about, 3 to 5 minutes.
Gotcha.
It took us about 20 to 30 minutes to get back to my car, to walk 2 blocks because, drunk stumbling. And people are watching me, they're looking at me. I don't know what they're thinking, but I'm thinking things in my head like, ooh, what's he going to do with her? Or why is she so drunk? Why did he let her get so drunk? All these different kinds of things. And I guess it's probably important to say that she was a white girl. And like I said, I'm a black man. So I'm cognizant of, people seeing me and people what they might be thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as we're walking, she puts her head in my chest and I'm like, oh, that's cute. And I start to feel this pain. And she's starting to like bite my nipple.
Yo.
And it's not a playful bite. It's like she's trying to like bite it off my chest. And I don't hit females, and I didn't hit her, but I was damn near, I was thinking it. Like she's about to catch something, because, yeah. So anyways, we're walking, we get to right across the street from the parking garage where my car is at. And she decides she does not want to walk anymore. And she just crumples to the floor. And she just has this dead person weight to her. And like I said, she's only like 5'4", 5'5", 120 pounds, soaking wet. And I'm a strong guy. I'm 6'2", I'm like 240-ish. And I work out, and I couldn't pick this chick up. Couldn't do it. Luckily, God sent these 2 angels, these 2 girls to my need eventually. And one of them was a recovering alcoholic, and she spotted all the signs that this girl was going through. And she was like, hey, I see what you're going through. I see you need some help. How can we help you? So I said, can you stay with her for a moment while I go to the garage and get my car, and I'll come back and pick
bring
her.
it, yeah.
So they're like, yeah, no problem. And so I got my car, thought about going home.
I don't think anybody would have blamed you, but go ahead.
But I was like, no, I can't be pawning off my problems on somebody else. I wasn't raised that way. And I always try to see things through to the end. Plus, I'm a gentleman, damn it. So, they helped me get her in the car, and once again she passes out almost as soon as she hits the seat. I don't know what's about my front seat, but apparently just knocks you out. So she passes out, and I bring her home again. And this is like, it had snowed this day or maybe a day or 2 before, so there was snow outside. And I bring her back to her house, and she's still passed out. And I'm looking for a key to like put her in the house. No, I'm sorry, I wasn't looking for the key yet. I knocked on the door. No one came to the door. This is an older house. There's no doorbell either. And I'm like, she's got to have a key. So I start going through her pocketbook. I don't find any key. And I'm like, this is really weird. I mean, like, why doesn't she have a key to her own dad's house? And I was like, she must be a problem child, kind of, or he doesn't trust her in some sort of sense, So I finally found the key. It was in her jacket pocket.
All right.
And I tried it in the front door, but the front door had this old lock. It's not even a real lock. I guess it was like a fake lock. So I'm like, how am I going to get this chick in the house? So I'm like, wait a minute. There's a door on the side of the house. So I walk around to the side of the house, and I try the door. And it works. And let me backtrack. I missed an important part.
Okay.
I'd carried her to the front porch, and there was a bench there that I sat her on, as I'm trying to get her inside. I'm thinking her dad's going to come to the door.
Yeah.
As I'm sitting there, I'm standing there, I'm waiting, I start hear this dripple droplet sound. I'm like, where's that noise coming from? Why does it sound like running water? I look over and she's peeing herself.
Well, on the front porch.
Yep.
While you're waiting.
Yep, in her pants.
Okay.
And like I said, she's still passed out.
So
she's passed out peeing herself. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, why me? I'm trying to do a good deed by just bringing her home, getting her home safely, and all this is happening. So anyways, back to me in the side door. And I carried her back to my car because I couldn't leave her out there. I didn't want her to freeze to death and die.
So pissy pants back to your car.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I put something on the seat.
Okay.
So I get her back in the car because I couldn't leave her out there to die. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to carry her to the side door because there's snow on the ground and she has that drunk person dead body weight. So I'm like, I'm just going to back up to the corner because it's a corner house. And I'm going to carry her from there. So I'm getting ready to back up and a car is coming. So I stop and I wave the car on and it goes. So the car goes and I start backing up again. Another car comes and they stop. And I wave them on, they don't move. I'm like, you know what? F it. I'm just going to go. I'm going to go home. So I back up, turn the corner, and then as I do it, the car is still there. I'm like, this is really weird. Why is that car still there? And it hits me. It's a SUV.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's a cop. And I'm like, this really doesn't look good.
Ooh, yeah. You got a drunk white girl in your car, and you've been out this house probably, what, 10, 15 minutes?
More. Probably about 20-ish, 25 minutes.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, because I tried other things to get her in the house, but I'm going to leave out because it's not really important.
Got you.
So that's why I was there for so long. So I'm not dumb. And this is probably before a lot of the shootings happened, whatever. Maybe it was around the same time. I forget. But I get out of my car and I wave at him, as cheery as can be. Like,
hey there, officer!
Yeah,
what a beautiful winter day this is.
Exactly. Hiya, how you doing? Could you offer some assistance? So I walk over and I'm like, hey, how you doing? I got this girl in my car. I met her on Tinder. I made sure to put that out there. I met her on Tinder. He gave a little chuckle. And I'm just trying to get her in her house. She's drunk. I picked her up from downtown like that. And he's like, oh, okay. No problem. Because we had a call or something like that. Or he said something to the effect where someone called. Someone saw someone on a porch. No, when I say someone, I mean a black person on a porch. And I guess I looked suspicious.
Okay.
Yeah. So he says that her father's home. I'm like, well, I've been knocking and no one came to the door. So how do you know her father's home? So anyways, he's like, all right, let me go in first and you can carry her in. I'm like, okay, cool. So I carry her in. I put her on the same exact couch I did last time. And he goes upstairs like he knows the place or knows the dad, even though all the lights are off and he has his flashlight out. And he starts knocking on the door and he's like, sir. And then her father wakes up. And her father was still kind of cool. Like, he wasn't like alarmed, nothing like that. I think I'd be alarmed if a cop came in my house and woke me up. So he comes downstairs. Her father comes downstairs and he sees me and he says, you again?
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I was like, nah. Do. So I was like, hey, I found her like this. We were supposed to go to the movies. I picked her up. She was drunk, and I'm bringing her home. And that's when he tells me, she has a problem with alcohol. She has been in she's crashed 6 or 7 cars or been in 6 or 7 car accidents because she's been drunk at the wheel. And I'm like, okay, it makes sense why she doesn't have a car and she doesn't drive. So then I leave. Me and both the cop, we leave, and we just part ways, and I go home. She calls me, I think, the next day or texts me, and she's like, oh, I'm really, really sorry. I want to make it up to you. Oh, this is part 3, by the way. That was part 2. So we're on the last leg of the story. So part 3 is she calls me, apologizes again, and says, let me cook you something. And against my better judgment, I'm like, I should not have this chick in my house.
Yeah, at your house. Right. So now she knows where you stay. How fine was she for you to go through all of this trouble, bro?
She was about an 8, but the thing was, it wasn't so much her fineness, I guess, because I like to say I have a disease, and it's a made-up disease. I'm totally clean, no STDs, but I call it my damsel in distress disease, where I feel like I need to do my part to save someone or try to help them, It's one of my flaws, I guess, and I'm not trying to be, Mr. Knight in shining armor, but I just see someone who needs help and I try to help them. I try to see past whatever traumas they've been in or they're going through. So that's what it was. Is why, I said the 3-strike rule. So I say yes to, okay, you can cook me something. And she's asking what I want to eat. I'm like, I don't know, surprise me. I'm like, I'll come get you after I got off of work. And I was like, but I'm not coming to your house. I don't want to run into your dad. So you got to meet me somewhere, like a street over or something like that. She said, all right, cool. There's a playground. I'll come meet you at the playground down the street from my house. I'm like, cool. So we meet at the playground. And like I said, she gets in my car. And I was like, you weren't drinking or nothing like that today? She's like, nope. And something hit me again. I was like, something seems a little off. But the thing is, I've never seen her sober. You know, so I have no basis for what's normal for her.
Gotcha.
But something didn't quite feel right. So we drive to the supermarket, and the more we're talking, the more we're going.
Hold on. For those of y'all listening, something didn't quite feel right. So we're driving to the supermarket. Keep going.
We're driving to the supermarket. And she's picking out all these, you know, different foods like shrimp and whatever else you put with shrimp and vegetables and this and that. And I'm like, all right, cool. So this is going to be a tasty meal, you know. But at the same time, her body language is starting to go downhill like the last 2 times. And I'm like, please, let's not go through this again. So anyways, we get to the self-checkout. I'm like, I'm not going through the regular checkout with this chick.
Yeah.
You know. And she starts scanning the stuff with the barcodes. Then she gets to the vegetables that don't have barcodes. They're like little PLUs, you know, you got to type in.
Yeah.
And she's trying to scan it, and I'm like, something definitely is wrong, because you would know you scan a barcode and there ain't no barcodes on vegetables. And she's like, oh, well, I guess it's free, and throws it in the bag. And I'm like,
yo, trying to get you hemmed up, bro.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm not going to jail for an onion. So, so what happens next? So yeah, so we the person comes over and helps us out, and I'm like, cool. So I end up paying for it. We get back to my house, and she attempts to start to cook. And as I'm trying to help her and get things in the kitchen, she's like, are we gonna do this or not? I was like, what are you talking about? And she basically just like jumps on me and like starts like, you know, we're kind of going at it for a little bit.
Hey, you know? There we go.
Right? And I was
all
like,
right.
I was like, okay, cool, finally, you know. So yeah, so some things happened, and then things. I stopped things because it got weird. Not in a bad way, but I'm like, I shouldn't keep going with this.
Yeah.
So I stopped it, and I was like, let me get you some aspirin and a water. You know, maybe that'll help. You can just chill here in the bed. And oh, I'm sorry, I missed the part again. Let me back up a little bit.
All right, back it on up.
Yep. So as we're in the kitchen, she asked me, is it okay if I use my phone? I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't it be? We're not together. I don't own you. Go ahead.
It's a weird request.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
I'm like, yeah, knock yourself out. She's like, okay, cool. So I think I went upstairs for something, and I come back down, and she's on the phone, and she puts the phone down, and I look at her phone, and guess what number was on the phone?
Her ex-boyfriend?
No, sir. One more guess.
Her dad?
No, sir. She had called 911.
Wait. You invited this person into your home.
Mm-hmm.
Things have been, okay. There was the talking, and then so we gonna do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's calling 911?
Yep.
Was she throwing up? Was she sick?
No, she was just standing in the kitchen talking to 911. So I pick up the phone, and I'm like, hello? And I'm like, yes, it's 911. Is there emergency help needed, or what they say? And I was like, no, sorry, it was a false alarm. Please disregard. So they're like, okay, no problem. That was that. So okay. I thought that was the only speed bump of the night. So like I said, some things happened, and we stopped. So I left her upstairs and went downstairs to kind of clean up the kitchen because it was kind of a mess because food was kind of everywhere. Not on the floors, the ceiling, or something like that, but just out in pans and stuff like that on the countertops. So I cleaned up really quick. And before I went downstairs to clean up, I was like, hey, do you want your phone? And she was like, yeah. So I'm looking all around my room for this phone. I can't find the phone. I'm looking under the covers. I'm looking under the pillows, looking on the floor. I don't see this phone anywhere. I'm like, it must be downstairs. So I go downstairs to look for it and clean up. And I don't find it downstairs. So I finish cleaning up. I go back upstairs. Mm-hmm. Open my door. And as soon as I open my door, I hear this thunk sound by her side. I'm like, what was that noise? Mm-hmm. So I walk over, and I see it's her phone on the floor. I'm like, that's really odd. She didn't have her phone, and I couldn't find it. Where was it at? She had put it in between the mattress and the box spring, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird. So I pick it up again, and guess who she called again?
Not 911, bro.
You damn well know it.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's not going to end well because that's 2 calls from the same number. Mm-hmm. I can only imagine it gets worse.
It does.
Please continue.
So I pick up the phone a second time and talk 911, and I said, sorry, false alarm. Can you please disregard? And they said, no, sir, sorry, we can't. As you said, this is a second time from the same number. We have to send a unit out to make sure everything's okay. So I'm like, I'm playing it cool. I'm a smart guy. So I'm like, okay, no problem. Here's my address. Here's where I'm at. I'll be waiting. And so she goes back downstairs and begins to try to start cooking again. And she has like either a knife or some shears in her hands. And I'm keeping my distance. My kitchen has a pretty decent sized island in the middle. Uh-huh. And so I'm staying on one side of the island, she's sitting on the other. And she's asking me, hey, aren't you going to help me cook? And I'm just like, yeah, in a minute, And as a black person, you know what? I've never wanted the cops' help so bad in my life, I have never wanted cops around so badly.
So, and just to make sure that we're keeping this story straight, this is after the 2 911 calls, and now she's down trying to finish cooking and just talking
with sharp objects.
With sharp objects in her hand, talking as if everything's fine.
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm looking at my windows and like, when these cops gonna get here? Because it's one of those situations where I think it took them like 15, 20 minutes to get here, but it felt like an hour or two.
I bet.
And I'm just like, oh man, she keeps asking me, aren't you gonna help me cook? Of course, not that candidly. She's like, aren't you gonna help me cook? And I'm just like, yeah, I'll be in a minute. I'll be there. So the cops finally come, and I'm just kind of relieved. But at the same time, I'm like, I still know I'm a black person, and there's a white girl in my house, and some things just popped off, Uh-huh. So I meet them outside, because I was like, the smart thing to do is meet them outside, talk to them outside, let them know what's going on. Uh-huh. And I told them some things happened, because they asked me, like, did anything happen? I was like, yeah, some things happened. Because you don't want to lie in a situation like that, You don't be like, no, nothing happened. And then she's like, yeah, something happened. And they're like, okay, well, you lied to us once. What else you lied about? So always tell the truth, boys and girls. So yeah, so I told him, I was like, look, I told him the whole story, what I just told you guys. And I told him, like, I was looking into her eyes, not in a lovingly fashion, but like her pupils were like fully blown. It was just like black pupils. You could barely see the colors of her eyes. So I'm like, she's either super drunk or she's on something. You guys can see for yourself when you go in there, So they go in there. They start talking to her, asking her questions, I guess, to assess the situation. And they can see she's slurring her words. They can see that her eyes are fully dilated. And I kind of felt vindicated right there and then. And basically they're like, well, we need you to leave. And she looks at me and she's like, do you want me to go? And I was like, yes.
Absolutely. Yes.
Like, yes, I do. And like I said, this chick's 5'4", 120 pounds. And I told her, and I was being dead up, I was like, I don't feel safe with you here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, because I don't know what you're going to do with those sharp things in your hands, And like I said, she doesn't drive. So I was hoping the cops would take her home. But apparently they're not taxis.
Oh, man, I'm surprised that they didn't.
Yeah, me too. So they take her outside, and they're trying to talk to her. Actually, sorry, before they take her outside, I was like, I'm still going to do the gentlemanly thing. I'm not going to take her home, but I called her an Uber.
Okay.
Yeah. So I felt bad for calling the Uber for her. Not for calling an Uber, but for putting that mess into the Uber's lap.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so as we're waiting on the Uber to come, she's talking about she's just going to walk back home. Home for her is probably like 15, 20 miles away. And this is wintertime. And she's not dressed for a 15, 20 mile walk at like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, whatever the time it was. And the cops are trying to like make sure she doesn't walk off and go freeze and die somewhere. And then eventually the Uber comes, picks her up. I watch on the app to make sure she gets back, and she does. And I think after that, we never talked again. Mm-hmm. I think she just kind of knew that, that was it.
Had she contacted you, were you at that 3 strikes point?
I was. That was. I mean, because 2 of those instances ended in cops. And statistically speaking, as a black man, I mean, I should have put the lottery the next day, because I'd end up dead.
Man, you should have. Oh my goodness! If you guys would like to hear some of his other stories, let us know.
Let's get it. Shake it like understand who I is. Not that many gon' do it like this. Bob your head, we can hear my shit, but I'm on my shit. I ain't has no chill. I'm who I are, I'm who I is. Taylor suit and I play the part. Fuck a fire, how you mesmerize black Austin pies, man. That I'm stupid, then again oh so clever. On my loony, pour that lever, talk my shit. I'm talking hella flow, baby. You